Joe Rogan and Kobe Bryant are about to bring you the formula to success in any field. You know who I am. I'm Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you want the absolute best insights to the podcast you love, smash that subscribe button. Let's get into it. Watch to the end and you are going to understand how to dominate in any field that you pursue. Let's get into it. This is a very unlikely podcast for me to even listen to. It's Brian Simpson. He's a comedian. But in this 4.5 hour podcast, that's right, I did that for you, 4.5 hours. 1915 is the episode number. There are some tidbits of motivation, inspiration, and things like that. Here is a clip where Joe Rogan and Kobe Bryant's coming soon. Hold on. But Joe Rogan is talking about how to get better at something. And it's really, 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 really vital towards success. I'm starting to learn that as I pursue YouTube, as I pursue my coaching business, as I pursue my marriage even. Vital information. Let's go.
You know, that's how Earthquake got so strong. You know the Earthquake story?
No, but I know he's a beast.
He's a beast, dude. He took over a comedy club in Atlanta. And when he took over this comedy club in Atlanta, he had to be on stage every night. So he was on stage constantly. So he was doing like what the Beatles did when they went to Hamburg and they were playing like 8 hours a day. That's how they got so good. Like the Beatles, that's also in that Malcolm Gladwell book. When the Beatles went back to Liverpool, everybody's like, "What the fuck did you guys do? How are you so good? Like, what the hell happened?"
Ooh, that's what I did.
Numbers, just numbers.
When I first started, I was pretty bad, but then I started working at this comedy club that it had just opened, and so I was learning how to do everything. I was basically their first door guy. And I fucking ran the shows and sold the tickets and sat and answered the phones and did every fucking thing. And I was on stage every fucking night. And I only went there. And then everybody else saw me that hadn't seen me and all this was like, "How the fuck did you?" And I was like, "I was just doing this every day, like literally every day."
Every day.
Yeah. I don't know if I can do that now. But
Don't say that.
yeah, every night.
If you had to,
Yeah,
you could definitely do it. It's
back,
a lot of fun.
But back then, I think I overcorrected because back then, like I said, I was so excited to finally find my thing that I became obsessed about it. But it was to the detriment of everything else in my life.
That's how it always works.
Yeah, it was like, yeah. So I was like, it wasn't healthy, but it was necessary.
Now, this is the reason that I chose this clip, just because of that. The way that he said it isn't healthy, but it was necessary. And also Joe Rogan just talking about sheer numbers. Brian Simpson. But Joe Rogan talking about just sheer numbers. The way that when he brought up the Beatles, what the Beatles did, what he was talking about is that they were playing in this city and they were playing every night for hours and hours and hours. And it was just like nonstop. And it just got to the point where they just couldn't mess up, right? Like they say, like an amateur, does it until he just knows it through and through, and like a professional does it until they just can't mess it up. Like it's just, Floyd Mayweather talks about it. He talks about like all this, everything I do is muscle memory. He's like, it's just muscle memory. It just happens. He's like, I barely even think about it. And Kobe Bryant also talks about this exact same thing. And I'm going to play that clip for you right now too. Let's get into it. Let's hit it, Kobe.
If your job is to try to be the best basketball player you can be, right? To do that, you have to practice, you have to train, right? You want to train as much as you can, as often as you can. So if you get up at 10 in the morning, train at 11, right? 12, say 12, train at 12, train for 2 hours, 12 to 2. You have to let your body recover. So you eat, recover, whatever. You get back out, you train, start training again at 6. Train from 6 to 8, right? And now you go home, you shower, you eat dinner, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it again, right? Those are 2 sessions, right? Now imagine you wake up at 3, you train at 4. You go 4 to 6, come home, breakfast, relax, blah, blah, blah. Now you're back at it again, 9 to 11, right? You relax, and now all of a sudden you're back at it again, 2 to 4. and now you're back at it again, 7 to 9. Look how much more training I have done by simply starting at 4.
See, and that's it, just another example, another great person who it's just the sheer numbers. And I love what Brian Simpson said. He's like, I was so excited when I found my thing that I became obsessed with it. What you're hearing in Kobe Bryant here is him being obsessed with it. What you're hearing with Joe when he's talking about the Beatles is them becoming obsessed with it. When he mentions that Earthquake character, which is he's just another comedian, great comedian, by the way, not just another one, but obsessed. When you see Dave Chappelle, been doing it since he was 14, obsessed. I know comedians I know one comedian, he's done like 6,000 shows. He's like 27 or something like that. It's just obsessed. I know guys who get on stage 3 times a day, obsessed, and they just get exponentially better than everybody else who just decides that they're going to do this thing once a week. They're just doing it haphazardly. It's just a hobby. They get dominated by these people. Out of control. You think guys who go to the basketball court every once in a while were able to play against Kobe? It would be ridiculous. It'd be like kids. It'd be like a man versus kids. It would be nuts, So when I bring up the formula to success, it's getting obsessed and doing it more than everybody else is doing. Way more than everybody else is doing. Kobe's talking about that's just that adjustment of starting at 4, doing his thing. You know what I mean? You heard the clip. Like he just has done so much more training, because if you look at he doesn't talk about it in this clip, but when he talks about his competition, he says they're training once a day. He's training 3 times a day. He's just doing so much more. For them to train 3 times, it takes them 3 days. For him to train 3 times, it takes less than 24 hours. He's just immersed in it so much. Now, another thing that Brian Simpson said, he said it wasn't healthy, but it was necessary. It was at the detriment of everything else in his life. And to that, I would say you have to find that thing. I can't tell you that you have to let your health or let your relationships, friendships, talking with yourself. I can't tell you that you have to let all that fall away. But when you find that thing and you pursue it because it's in your heart and you need it and you need to achieve it, those things will naturally just fall away. And it's sad to say, but it's necessary. Just like you said, it wasn't healthy, but it was necessary. And here's the thing, another thing about that, right? It sounds like, oh man, but that's not healthy. I shouldn't do that. This goes back to what Jordan Peterson said. I should have pulled up this clip from Jordan Peterson. I don't have it on hand, but he talks about threading the needle. And when he talks about threading the needle, it's when you thread a needle, there's just a little hole and you got to just kind of get the thread through, and all you can do is just focus on that hole, and you have to put that thread through, and it takes a lot of focus. So when Jordan Peterson talks about threading the needle, he's like, there's a lot of possibilities, and we can look at it like this. There's friends, there's family, there's relationships, there's fun, there's video games, there's drinking, there's smoking, there's all this stuff. He goes, but when you thread the needle, which is the decision of what you're going to be, when you thread that needle, all of those things fall away because they have to. They all can't come with you through the needle hole. They can't. It's all too much. All of those things fall away for what your true focus is, what your true calling is, what's really on your heart to do. All of those things fall away so you can thread that needle. But here's the thing that Jordan Peterson talks about, is that after that happens, after you thread the needle, which means that you focused and you've become and you've dominated and you're successful, all of those things can come back. You have room for those things to come back. Like Kobe was one of the greatest basketball players of all times. When he retired, I bet he was, even before he retired, but I bet when he retired, he was able to start talking to his friends more, calling up people, hanging out more, taking his wife here and there. Like he was able to all of a sudden do all those things that he sacrificed in order to become who he was, right? Same with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's at the epitome of podcasting. He's a crazy, dominant stand-up comedian, fills stadiums. So Now that he has done that and he's made that 100 million, 200 million, whatever amount of $1 million, now he has room. And what does he do with that room? He helps younger comedians. He's built a comedy club that he's going to focus on. He started an MMA show. Like, he's done all these other things, because once you thread the needle, all the options come back. You think that you're sacrificing everything forever. But once you focus in and become the thing and get dominant and get successful and get, whatever financial benefits come from you doing that, because once you're at the top of your field, finances come along with that. Once you get all of that, all your options come back. Everything comes back. So it's like, that's how you become dominant. You have to become obsessed. You have to do more than everybody else. Anybody who watches this channel, I put out 3 videos a day, because the person who I admire in this space of commentary and YouTubing and stuff, I see that they put out 2 videos a day. So I put out 3, not that I'm competing with them, but I'm seeing what it takes to get where they are. And I'm doing a little bit more because I'm further behind. And to what Brian Simpson said, things falling off, like at the detriment of everything else. It's like, I used to post on Instagram like 3-4 times a day. Now I don't have time. I just don't have time. I'm focused on this. I used to do meditation and affirmations and all sorts of stuff in the morning. Now I don't have time. I do this in the morning. It's not healthy, but it's necessary. And I still get those things in at night when I get home. But I got to focus in, right? And that's what it's going to take for you. You just got to focus in. Just immerse yourself, focus, and make it the only thing that you do. Thread the needle. Let all those things fall away. If your friends are really your friends, they're going to understand that you're focused on something. Throw them a message every once in a while, but you can't hang out for 4 hours a day like you used to. Right? Your siblings, they're always going to be there for you. They're your siblings. Throw them a message every once in a while. Your relationship, maybe you have a wife, go to your wife and say, hey, listen, we're going to have to spend a little less time together, but I love you so much, and we're going to get in the quality time wherever we can, but I got to focus. You got to do what you got to do in order to be successful. Some things will fall away, and some of those things will hurt. It'll be a shedding. It'll feel like death in some instances, but it's necessary in order for you to become the most dominant version of yourself. Guys, like, you want to work out for 2 hours a day? There's going to be something else that you can't do for 2 hours a day. You're going to work for 12 hours a day? There's going to be something else you can't do for 12 hours a day. But when I bring up working out, you're sacrificing something in order to have good physical health, great physique. When it comes to the work for 12 hours a day, when you're doing that instead, you're sacrificing that time, but you're getting your financial gain that you need in order to survive and pay rent and XYZ. You got to immerse yourself. You got to immerse yourself. And if you don't have the time, make the time. I'm telling you. I tell it to all the people that I work with. Write down what you do in a day. I bet you have 6 hours of nonsense that you do that you can just X out, and you can fill in with the thing that you want to accomplish in life. All right? So that is the formula to success. That is how you dominate in any field that you're a part of. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm out.